I have created the breadth indicator, and this indicator I use for the swing trading. And this is the database, and this whole indicator is basically based on this data. And I have about 2,300 stocks, and I'm not using the whole universe like 5,000 or 8,000 stocks. The reason is they are illiquid. I'm using only those stocks which have the volume, minimum volume is 100,000. Below 100,000 they are very illiquid, and the number reached to like 8,000 or 7,000, and I don't think so they are so much relevant to check the breadth. Like for example, if the volume is 20,000, uh, I don't think so it's going to impact a lot to the stock market, and even combine them still it's very little impact. So that's why this number, where this number come from, basically if you go to the scans tab, or you can scan anywhere, if you have the finviz or anywhere, you can just check that the volume should be like, I have the volume, average volume is 1 million. This is average volume, but like if you daily volume you check, like some stocks have $100,000, not dollar, 100,000 shares or something like, and this number is about 1800 or something. uh, no, it's a 2200 something like this. So you see that these are the liquid stocks. So that's why 2200, and I have the 2300 database here, 2300. So these are all the liquid stocks. And then secondly, I have the tab dashboard. Here I have created some data based on these tabs, and this is just the visualizations. So for example, if I go to the advanced decline ratio, so I'm checking that how many stocks they are advancing today is like a greater than, it's not the, yeah, it's the greater than 0. So this is a J column. If you see that this is a J column, the percent change. So if the percent change it's greater than 0, it means it's advancing, and less than 0% change it's declining, and if the it is 0, equal to 0, it's like no change. So total I have 2300 stocks. So if you see today we have the ratio 1.28. Why? Because there were more stocks were advancing versus declining. And if you see that today we have 54% stocks, they were advancing versus declining. So these are also just the same data, but just a different representation. And similarly, this is how many stocks today they closed on the upper 75% range. So out of 2300 stocks, only 17% stocks they closed 75% and above the range. So for example, if this is the uh, open, and this is the high, and this is the low. So that's why I mean, if this is the close, today's close, so you see that the close, it closed upper 75% into this range. If the price closes here somewhere, it's a 50%. If the price closes below here, it is the below 50%. So you see that today's breadth is not very good. The most of the stocks, they closed below 50%. So if this is a 50%, they closed maybe here, or maybe even on the bottom. But you see 60% stocks, they closed below 50%. So we can check the range. And this is also is just a different representation. If you see here, only 17% stocks closed upper 75% range. You see that 17% upper 75% range. So this is not very strong breadth day today. And then we have the 52-week high. And if you see that I check the 52-week high, that how many stocks they are within 10% of 52-week high. So you see that it's a 19% of this number, and this number is what? The total number, right? Here is the total number, 2300. So if you see that 2300, only 19% stocks this time, they are within 10% of 52-week high. So it means overall the market breadth is not very strong. 80% stocks, they are below, and even you see that 20% to 100% is like if this is the 10%, and then this is a 10 to 20% range, and then below 20 and 100 means on the bottom. So in this range is, you see that how big number is. So it means that uh, the overall the market breadth is not good. So this is not for one day. This number is all one day, is like today's data. This is also today's data, but it is overall the market breadth, that overall the market 52%, I mean the 10% of 52-week high, only 19% stocks, they are in this range. So it's not very much strong. But this is today's data. If we check that today, how many stocks they were advancing 10% of 52-week high. So for example, if this is the 52-week range, and this is the 10%, how much stocks they were advancing into this zone? So you see that they were advancing 56%. So this area looks still okay, not so bad today, rather than here. You see that 55% stocks they were advancing here, and 43% stocks they were declining into the top 10% range. If this is the 100% range, this is the off 10%. So 43% stocks were declining here. Okay, and then we can check that how many stocks, if the price opened here and going higher, or price opened here and going lower. So you see that 33% stocks, they open here and positive, but 63% stocks, they opened here and then lower, and this is within the 10% range, and you see that this number is here. So in the top 10% range, 63% stocks, they opened here and then they were falling. So that's why the 10% range, within 10% range, was not so much attractive today. And overall in the universe, these are the universe is 2300 stocks. So in the 2300 stocks, open here and advancing, or open here or declining, you can say 40% versus 56%. So we can check that overall breadth within the 52-week high, that how the overall the market is responding. And then we have the 4% momentum. And in this case, I have the sectors, like number one, we can check sector by sector the whole universe, and then we can check within 10% is same like this data. So in this case, you see that today 4% up were 111, and minus 4%. Minus 4% means 4% or more, minus 4% or more, or this is 4% or higher. Okay, so 188 stocks, they were minus 4% or more. Okay, and within 10% is 10 and 9. So these are almost equal. This is also not so much big difference. So I will still say that there is not very big difference. Sometimes the difference is like 1 to even 50. Sometimes, can you believe, 1 to 50 means only one stock is 4% up, but 50 stocks are minus 4%. So 1 to 50 ratio is very big. So today it is not too big. So it is still okay. And then we have the sectors. I can see that how many stocks in the sector wise, like which sectors have the the biggest number in the top 10% of 52-week high. So if you see that, uh, uh, we can check that here, 35%. So it means the financial sector is the only sector at this moment which have the most candidates, that is within 10% of 52-week high. Okay, and then we can check some other also. If this is a 35% and this is a 31%, so second number is real estate at this moment, which have the most stocks within 10% of 52-week high. And then we have the large cap versus a small cap. That large cap is greater than 10 billion, and this is less than 10 billion. And this is also with the sector wise. We can check that which sector was advancing today the highest in large cap. So you see that 85%, 85%. So today basically energy and healthcare, they were advancing in the large sector, uh, the highest one, and the lowest one we can check healthcare. And by the way, this is a small cap, less than 10 billion dollar. So so you see that, uh, where is, this is the healthcare, 86%, and healthcare here 85%. So it means large cap and small cap both are advancing in large. Uh, Healthcare is advancing in both spaces, large cap and small cap. And utilities, here is the 76% and here is the 87%. So overall 53% stocks, they were advancing in large cap, but today 58% stocks, they were advancing in the small cap. So kind of 50-50, no big difference today. I don't see any big rotation. So in the dashboard we have this old data, but just a quick representation. Like you see that I have to find here which one is the bigger one and which one is the smaller one. But we can use the dashboard to see everything. So for example, you see that 4% and higher within 10%, energy and industrial. These have the two stocks in energy, two stocks in industrial, 4% and higher, and then material have. And similarly, minus 4% or more is financial. So it means the financial seems a little bit more weaker compared to the others. Even industry, information technology also three stocks more than minus 4%. Okay, and this is these 4%, which stocks basically, these are the stocks. You see that here, 4% momentum, uh, here these are the 10 stocks, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. So these 10 stocks are advancing within 10% of 52-week high, and we can see in representation rather than we go here and check in this kind of table. It's a little bit not so easy to see, but in the dashboard you can, like this all data is basically coming from here, but you can arrange them here, something like this. And then large cap, this is the same, advancing versus declining. You remember that we checked here large cap versus small cap, and we can check here in the dashboard. You see that utilities and healthcare in large cap, and but healthcare and energy and utility. So it means almost both spaces almost have the same names, but material here and here also have material. So it means that in both spaces material is the weakest one, and real estate is here, 41, but here is 68%. You see the big difference. So it means that today, uh, small cap in real estate, they were advancing rather than here in large cap space. So this is what we can see, the quick representation of this data into here. And then we see that total percentage of stocks within 10% of 52-week high. This is this data, I mean here. You see that this data. So we can see that what is the largest number. See that financials 35.37%. 35.37%. So it means the financial have the largest number this time that have within 10% of 52-week high. If this is a if this is the range, and this is the 10%. Okay, and second, then we have the real estate and healthcare. But you see only very little numbers: 35%, 31%, 22%. So it means these are also not very strong. Uh, if this number is 80% or something, then you can say that 80% stocks in financial, they are within 10% of 52-week high. So it means financial sector is really strong. But this time nothing is strong. And then this whole data actually, this whole data is representing here. You see that today 54% stocks in the universe, they were advancing versus declining. So actually you see that this is 54%. And then advancing within 10% of 52-week high, 55.91%. So only 55% stocks, they were advancing today in the top 10% range. And 0 to 10%, only 19% stocks, they are off 52-week high. If you see that, only 19% stocks. And today the overall breadth was average. You see that it's like one, a kind of 1 to 1, not very big difference. So it's like average. But if yesterday it was worst here, because there were more declining than the advanced yesterday. And then percent change from open, this is the same data which I talked before here. uh, Percent change from open is here, I think. Yeah, here. So you see that change from open, uh, for example, open here and then advancing, or open here or declining. So in this case, you see that within 10%, this top 10% range, 33% stocks only, they open here and higher. So it means uh, a very big number in top 10%, they open here and lower actually. So that's why this breadth in the top 10% is not so good. Similarly, change from open in the universe. This is the top 10%, and this is overall the universe. In the universe, like I said, we have the 2300 stocks. So in the 2300 stocks today, 40% stocks, 41% stocks, they opened and advanced. So can say a little bit okay, but it's kind of average, not so good. And upper 70% range, only 17%. So it means if this was today's range, only 17% stocks closed here. Other all stocks, like they closed in the lower half. So that's why the breadth is not so good. And this is just the representation of this data, this one. We can check that where is the mostly number today in top 4%. Sometimes here we have the cluster, and I see that 4% stocks, they are like this is a 4% here. So I see that a 4 to 6% here is the cluster, and I see that stocks are not very strong within 4 to 6%. But sometimes this number is like 80%, 70%, 60% cluster here, and then I see overall the market is really very very strong, or even sometimes at the 50% stocks we have the cluster here, and I can see that how many stocks they were up more than 50%, and this cluster also tells me the strength of the market. But today you see that mostly we have between 4 to 6%, and then a couple we have 8 to 10%. So I don't see any big momentum day today on the upside. So actually overall the market, the average, but whatever the price, the stocks were up, they also don't have a really very big momentum. And this is how I use the breadth indicator uh, to gauge the daily breadth day by day, to check that what I should expect from the market. Is it a good day to open the new positions in the market, or just stay away? So like this type of day, or bad or worse type of day, I just avoid to open the new positions. But when we have a good breadth or best breadth, of course I will be looking for to open the new positions. But I don't need to check this whole data. I just check this dashboard quickly, and I can see that overall what's the breadth is. Okay, thank you.